Hey everybody, welcome to the replay if you're watching the replay. If you saw my Facebook Live a couple days ago, you saw that I was talking about setbacks when it comes to our health and when it comes to our diet and what we can do about them. And so today, I want to sort of move to the next step with that information. I was talking about how important it is to stay positive. How do you do that? So hi, everybody. I'm Ricki Heller from rickiheller.com, and I help women on restricted diets learn to love their food again so that they can let their bodies heal and go on to live the best possible life. Hey, everybody, welcome. Let me know if you have any comments or questions as we go along. So I want to talk a little bit more about this whole concept of dealing with setbacks. Maybe you've fallen off your diet. Maybe you have a setback and your symptoms are flaring up. What do you do about it? So I have three things that have worked really well for me that I want to share with you. And the first two are all around comparing yourself to other people. So normally the advice we hear is don't compare yourself to other people, particularly, if you're an online business person, that's one of the worst things you can do. But there are two situations and two ways of doing it that I think can actually help. So the first one is to compare yourself to a situation that could be worse. There is always someone who might have less money, less time, less favorable circumstances, who is able to do the things that we think we can't do if you look around you. So when I am feeling particularly down about flare-ups or whatever it was that was happening, one of the things I used to do a lot was think about someone that I felt had dealt with something even harder and yet was successful. And that allowed me to see that it could be done. And the person that I tended to think about a lot was Christopher Reeve, the actor who played Superman and then was in this devastating accident while horse riding and broke his neck and was paralyzed from the neck down. And he became an incredible advocate and spokesperson for people with spinal cord injuries. And my personal belief is that, he was an okay actor. He certainly wasn't an A-list actor, but he was okay. But when he became an advocate for people with spinal cord injuries, that is when he actually attained his full potential as a human being. And he was the most impassioned spokesperson. And he got so much done for that cause. And I just admired him and respected him so much. And I always think of him that that if he could accomplish what he did, then I can get over myself when I'm whining about my symptoms, right? So that was the first thing, is to think about a situation that maybe someone who didn't even have it as good as you do, and they thrived. But also to compare in the other direction about how things are better. So that's the second tactic, is to think about comparing yourself to your previous self. So again, when I had my flare-ups all the time, I was getting flare-ups several times a year where my rash would just kind of blossom like this little red flower that was blossoming on my chest. And it would keep coming back and keep coming back. And I'm thinking, why isn't this going away already? Why does it keep coming back? I'm not getting better, blah, blah, blah. Woe is me, woe is me. And eventually I started to think about, let's look at what this was like last year. So yes, I'm experiencing a flare up right now, I would say. And then I compared it to the previous year, and it was always better. So what I noticed over time is that the flare ups were less severe and they cleared up more quickly. So maybe the first year I had a flare up that lasted 3 weeks, and it took 3 weeks to clear up, and it was really itchy, and it was, almost as bad as the first time. And by the second and third year, my flare ups were maybe only lasting a week or 3 or 4 days. And it wasn't quite as bad. It wasn't quite as red. It wasn't quite as swollen. It wasn't quite as large, let's say, on my chest. And now, well, we're looking at 10 years later. If I have what I call a flare up, I might notice a little bit of pink on my chest, and it's gone in a day, right? So it doesn't interfere with my life. It doesn't prevent me from doing what I want to do. I wouldn't call that really a flare up at this point, but that is how I dealt with that, because The fact is, we're always so immersed in our present in terms of our symptoms and our diet and how we're doing in terms of those things that we forget that maybe last year we weren't able to stick to our diet as long as we are now. You know, maybe you fall off your diet, but it's the first time in 8 months. Whereas when you first started, you'd be falling off your diet every week. So it's really important to make that kind of comparison between you and you so that you can see how you have moved forward over time. And I find a really great way to do that is to keep an actual record. When I start working with clients one on one of the very first things we do is we list the symptoms and we score them on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of severity. So you might have a rash, you might have sinus issues, you might have stomach, digestive issues, and you're going to score it on, so you get a baseline, score it on a range of 1 to 10. 1 means it doesn't bother you at all. It's as if there's nothing there, which of course, if you have a symptom, it's never a 1. And 10 is absolute worst. You can't function. It's the worst it could be. So what you're going to find is if you go back and look at that list once a month, and you're really working on clearing these things up, if you are working on changing your diet and you're being consistent, you're going to find that your symptoms are getting better, even if it's slowly and even if it's only a little bit. So that can really help to put you back in a more positive frame of mind because you can see the progress and you can see the improvement. When you're working on healing in a natural way, when you're working on clearing your symptoms in a natural way, it's always going to take longer than when you're using pharmaceutical drugs, right? Because an antibiotic works within 48 hours. If you're using a natural method, it could take much longer for your body to rebalance itself and you're giving it the things that it needs. But what I find about that approach is that it also lasts longer, in my opinion. This is what I have found to be true for me and what I have seen with my clients, that when you take the approach of changing the way you eat, changing your lifestyle in order to support your best health, and then those changes actually take hold, they are going to be more stable and they're going to be permanent versus something that's just a really quick change because of medications. So that's the second thing. So you want to compare to something that could be worse, but also compare to your previous self and how much better you are. And then the third tactic, which most people don't like this one, but it is the reality. The third tactic, when you're feeling down and unmotivated and disheartened because maybe you're experiencing a flare up or maybe you're experiencing falling off your diet, the third thing to do to get yourself back to a positive place is just do it. Get back on the diet. Go and do everything that you're capable of doing, even with your symptoms. So I might have had a rash, or I might have had a sinus condition, or whatever it was that I felt was debilitating. And it's so easy to just sit in it and wallow in it. I mean, it's just natural. And I am absolutely guilty of doing that too. But what's so important is to have the awareness to say, yes, I feel like crap, but I'm going to do what I can anyway. So as an example, it's a year ago already, last year, when I thought I had COVID, and we will never know because I wasn't able to get tested fast enough. But I was so fatigued for about 6 weeks where I literally couldn't walk up one flight of stairs in my house, 14 steps, without stopping in the middle to take a break. That's how fatigued I was. I felt like my body just had no energy. And I had been used to exercising at home. I was trying to keep up with my exercise during COVID. And one of the things I do to exercise is I go up and down the stairs over and over and over, like 10 times. So my body was accustomed to doing about 10 flights of stairs in my exercise routine. I wasn't even able to do one. And instead of sitting there and doing nothing, I basically forced myself to do something that felt like exercise, even if it was standing in my room and shifting my weight from one foot to the other, right? Which I did a few mornings. That was about all I was capable of. But I'll tell you why that's important. It's the difference between doing nothing and allowing your mind to take over and focus on what's wrong, and doing something which to your brain reinforces the fact that I was still exercising every day. And so for you, it might be you cook a meal or you go for a short walk or whatever it is for you, the minimum required that forces you to do a part of the activity that you're normally used to doing. Because for your brain, that says, My routine is continuing, and therefore I am continuing to grow and improve and heal. And that's a positive for your brain. And that will keep you in a positive mindset versus allowing yourself to spiral back into the negative thoughts around the illness and the fact that you think the illness is never going to go away. Because, like I said, um, clearing symptoms and coming out of an illness when you're using natural means or any chronic condition takes time. And it's really important for us to be conscious and aware to keep up with our positive mindset as we move through that. The more positive you are, as I said on Tuesday, and you can go back and watch that video if you haven't, but studies have shown that the more positive our thoughts are, the quicker we heal. So if you're starting to get drawn back into that negative mentality around, oh, it's never going to get better. Oh, I'm never going to be able to stick with this. Cut it off right away as soon as you're aware of it, and do one of those three things. Compare back, compare forward with your previous self to your present self, or get yourself up and do something, anything. As long as you take action to move forward, your brain is going to interpret that as a positive move forward, and it's going to help maintain that positive mindset. So I hope that's helpful. I know that setbacks and flare-ups can be one of the worst things that happen, but it's just part of the process. Everybody has setbacks. Everybody has flare-ups. And if you keep moving forward, eventually you're going to get to the point where they happen less often. They're weaker and weaker and weaker. They have less impact on your life until you get to the point where you can't remember the last time you had a real setback. And that's where I am now in terms of my symptoms. I can't even tell you when the last time I had a candida flare-up was, because it's been so long, or it is so inconsequential that my brain didn't even register it. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. If you have specific tactics or techniques that you use to deal with setbacks, I'd love for you to put them in the comments, or just let me know if this was helpful. Leave me a comment and let me know. And I hope you will continue to follow along. You can subscribe to my newsletter at rickiheller.com/subscribe, where I talk about these kinds of things every single week in my newsletter. And I also link to other videos and recipes that I hope will be useful for you. So, all right, everybody, I'm glad to speak to you today. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you again next time. Bye for now.